Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, and I have a very special guest. Why? Because she is the first ever two-time guest here on the podcast.
Yes.
Give it up for Dr. Cortney Beasley. How you doing?
I'm good. I didn't know I was the first ever two-time. That sounds very exciting.
Yeah, it was a big. You know what? I didn't even have guests on the show until Farasia was like, "I'm being a guest on your show." Our mutual friend. And I was
Right.
like, "I don't know how to do that," but since then, I've
Mm,
had guests every week. So congratulations on
So
helping me
cool.
grow.
Yeah, and you really are good at this. Like when I've shared it with people, yeah, the vibe is good. And like
Oh,
you have the
thanks.
voice for this too.
I appreciate that because there's some
Yeah.
days I have that crippling self doubt. Like, what am I doing in my
Uh,
life? I'm 30 plus. I should be doing something cool.
for sure. Yep,
But
I
but
understand.
yeah, well, like, that way we're all creatives, and New Amsterdam Radio is the city for creatives. People are doing things. Put in Black is what we mentioned last time. You were close to launch. Health, wellness,
Yeah.
and the Black community access to information.
Yep.
You launched now. Tell me how that felt day one, hitting the power button.
Yeah, it's so funny because right now when you just said that, I feel, even though, duh, I know we're about to talk about this, I feel nervous. Like I feel like I remember all the anxiety of it and the excitement for it and just
Yeah.
like putting myself out there in this new way, right? Like putting my idea out into the world and then people get to critique it. So, yeah. So after I spoke with you, I think at the time that I spoke with you, I was planning to like launch in April or something, and we had just
Yeah.
entered quarantine and stuff like
Yep.
that. Um, Dang, we had just entered quarantine.
Hey, we're not going to get out the way we're going. We're going to be here forever.
Oh man, yeah, a lot of life has happened since then.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so then I ended up pushing it back. I was like just like rushing to get everything done and didn't really have enough content because the content is based on being able to have conversations with other people in healthcare. So, and yeah, and I just had this moment when I was talking to someone and she was like, "You do know you can push it back, right? Like, give yourself permission to push the launch date back if you need to." And I was like, "You're right." Like I just felt my shoulders relax and just I could breathe a little bit. But it's like this idea that like I said I'm gonna launch this day. So then I have to launch this day because the world is holding their breath for my website.
Right, right. I
um,
was. I'm
Thank
refreshing
you.
every day.
So yeah, I pushed it back until May, which was very a great choice, and it's been incredible in many ways. I'm seeing myself grow in different ways because of putting myself out there in this way. So then it's influencing other areas of my life. Um, the connections I've made with people who've contributed have been incredible, just beautiful. There's so many people who want to sort of, have some sort of part in this mission to increase health or to improve health in the Black community. There's so many talented artists. Like that's been the funnest part. It's like when I reach out to someone and they actually respond, I'm like, oh, like look what happens if you try.
That is like my whole life now. I appreciate it.
Yes,
You said
yes.
yes?
Right. And you're, you okay, cool. That yeah, so it's been it's been a lot too. Like it's been a lot, but it's also been incredible. And I feel so much I'm growing in so many different ways. I'm connecting with new people. I've met a few people during this quarantine virtually, but just like who
Sure.
are doing dope things and they've been a part of like live conversations that I've had like with the Put in Black platform. And then also have written some articles. So it's like turning into all these beautiful things. And it's
Yeah.
more now just me kind of like being able to catch up and be organized. Yeah.
That's really cool that you're able to virtually meet new people with your project. For those of you not familiar, episode 43, Put in Black, I suggest go back check that out because it was a fun time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also cool that it's very positive too. Like it isn't. You're talking about wellness and access to information, but it isn't very sterile. It isn't like here's a white paper about why you should eat
Right.
fruit. It's very interactive. One of the
Mm-hmm.
parts of the site that really spoke to me was the conversation series. It seems to be a side part of the site. You're sitting down with people and who are thought leaders in certain segments. Talk to me about that. Like why you decide to do that series separate, and what you plan to do that, and how's that plan to grow?
Yeah. So also thanks for checking it out.
No problem.
Checking out the site. But yeah, so okay, so when I was going into this process of launching the site, I had every week outlined. Like I was like, hey, this is what I'm accomplishing in this week. This is right. Like, and of course it wasn't going super by the way that I planned it out, but it at least was a guide. And I knew that I wanted to get to this place of having interactive conversations like through video. And it just so happened that our country has like gone, just more stuff has come to the surface. It's stuff that's been there, but there's more media attention. So then there's just been all these requests to have more conversations, I think, too, and just feeling the need, seeing the need. So I think that influenced it too, but also just like I said, meeting people and then being like, oh, like you want to just like talk and then share it with people, and then being a part of other people's podcasts and like yours. And then I met a couple other women, and that's kind of how that develops. But it definitely, it wasn't, so like I said before, I feel like I was more planned, but that was kind of just like, oh, I'm going with the flow. And that quickly became like, it became a lot, because I was just like, and how you're saying you're doing things every day, I'm like, I'm tired. And so, yeah, I was like having conversations it felt like every week or every other week, in addition to like the clinical work that I do. So it was a lot of talking and listening and processing. So like not all the conversations are on Put in Black, because I realized like, oh, I should record these and share. But yeah, I don't even know if I answered your question. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of cool that one, you recognize it's definitely, it can be very arduous trying to the source and what you really want to curate. I think a lot about your site is curation. It isn't just a here's some information. Like it isn't listicle, it isn't trying to be clickbaity. It isn't like, here's 10 vegetables you could eat to feel better about yourself. It's very interactive. But I do like the fact the conversations, it seems like very heavy hitters in those spaces. Is there any kind of like areas you wish to hit upon in the future as far as your conversation series is concerned?
Yeah.
She can't tell me all the secrets up front. That's what it is. What can I share to the public?
No, it's just funny. Like if you knew the word that came to mind. So silly. So I definitely want to talk about reproductive health, like women's reproductive health specifically, because there's so many. I mean, men's too. It's just that I have a person in mind. But with women, there's so much stuff we don't talk about, and there can be a lot of shame around our bodies and what they do and what they don't do, and that's something for sure. I've had conversations just about like, the relationships we have with our parents, and then how that's showing up in our relationships now, and not doing it in a very like, I'm not trying to do therapy with anybody, but just in a like, we're people and we all have this in our lives, right? Regardless of who was your caregiver or whatever, like those early experiences and how that shows up today, like that kind of stuff. And there's people that I have in mind to touch on some of that. So one of my favorite things is just like touching on stuff that we all know is there, but we don't have many conversations about it. Yeah. And another thing was, so one that's not on my site is we had a conversation about relationships just in general. But there was, of course, a focus on romance, because we love to talk about those relationships.
Exactly. Find your person and all that.
Yeah. And that was pretty cool, because I still have had conversations with people who are like, and then like, I'm like, they're still reflecting on it. Like that was the first conversation I had for Put in Black, and that was like beginning of June, I think, maybe. And like people are still like, and remember this part of the conversation? And it's kind of like led to other like self-reflection and like noticing things in relationships. And that is so cool.
To be able to foster community. And that is especially important now in 2020, right? We're trying to figure out what that means. We're inside our boxes, inside homes, and being all socially distant. But besides 2020 sounding like a movie that's going where everyone is in for the worst of their lives, but there was some good to come out of it. The Black Lives Matter movement, which is a couple months ago, right here in Los Angeles, there were demonstrations just asking people to think of us as equals, especially in our community. I mean, how has Put in Black been involved in that? I know the conversations we're going to have with our communities also include health, and that's like right where Put in Black lives, in that corner, huh?
Yeah, definitely. There's so much to speak about with that point. And put in black isn't even the first thing. So is it cool if I share some other parts too?
Cool is what we do. Yeah.
Okay. Just so I'm in Oakland, and man, it's been a lot. Like, I think a lot of us are aware that these things have existed, these issues, the disparities in our community, the disinvestment in our community, all of that has existed. But what's felt different for me, at least, has been like, I'm in Oakland and I'm in an area where a lot of people go and where the protests have been, and so like there's like no peace. Like, it's just been a lot of stuff all the time. And then in my work, doing therapy and then having these conversations through Put in Black, and then like also making sure there's content beyond the videos, right? It's been a lot, and I definitely felt myself trying to like stay on track and like make sure I'm still getting stuff done. And there just came a point where I was like, well, that's not gonna work. Like, I'm tired. But yeah, I think Put in Black has been, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Like, even outside of moments like this, it's like, let's take care of us, and like, let's educate others too, in the sense that like, it's for our community, but if they want to read as well, or like listen in on some of the conversations, cool. But yeah, like it's there beyond the moments when people are like, oh my gosh, this is happening in the Black community. Like, Black people are being killed. Like, yeah, this has been a thing.
Surprise!
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So as someone that also has a small business, but also is living as a Black person in this country, I mean, look, we all have stories, man. We all have stories about when we were profiled or mistreated or didn't get the kind of opportunities. But the thing I'm struggling with personally, and if I'm going off the rails, please stop me. The things I struggle with is that, above all, we're still Americans. We're still like encouraged and forced to put your head down and pull yourself up by the bootstraps. So what I feel like what we end up having is that those that still are affected by the injustices are almost trained to like minimize it if they become successful. Is that me being cynical, or is that just something that like have you seen as well?
That's so real. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, so outside of the Put in Black conversations that are recorded and that I share, I've been having conversations with different organizations to like facilitate conversation in their, whatever the space is, like in their offices with their teams, whatever. And I think a lot of us are feeling that, of like, there's so much going on. Like, your body's letting you know, like, oh, I'm not okay, right? Like, I'm tired. I don't feel, whatever it is. And it's still like, okay, but still present in this way. Like, still make sure that you're on, or that you're showing up in this way. Is that kind of what you're speaking to?
Yeah, for sure. Being present when you know you can't be, I guess.
Yes. Like, yeah. And I mean, even like, I'm saying even me, like I'm above, I don't mean to say like I'm above it, but I'm saying like, as a psychologist who like actively has learned this, like how best to take care of ourselves, right? Just based on research, whatever. And then having conversations with people like, hey, do these things to take care of you, and being like, wait, am I practicing that? Like, what am I doing to take care of me? Because right now all I'm doing is talking to people, listening to people, doing Put in Black. And then where's the time for me? So I because there's like this balance, right? Of like feeling like I still need to be of service to my community, yet I'm a part of the community that's hurting so deeply right now.
Sure. Absolutely. What do you do then? How do you personally then find that balance and center yourself? If I could be crudely describe that, like, what do you do?
So I run, like what we talked about a bit before hopping on. But I don't even know. Well, yeah, it does help. In the moment when I'm running, I'm like, this sucks.
Why'd I do this?
Yeah, like, and then also looking at other people, like, how do they look like it's so easy? And do I look like it's easy? Anyway, I do. So movement really is what I'm speaking to, because it's running, it's yoga, it's dancing in my apartment, and noticing the moments when I'm not really dancing, because that's a sign too. And I've not been dancing much lately. And then
like what kind of dance? Like ballroom, or like a certain kind of lyrics, just being in the moment dancing? Like, what kind of dance?
Ballroom sounds so cool to just be doing in my apartment.
Tangling or whatnot.
I know. I do like, I don't know. I make up my own moves, but I'm really into like hip hop and like salsa and like I'm into all kinds of movement actually.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, but yeah, it'll be just me like putting on music and like starting to dance around. But I did find a YouTube video the other day, and I started doing it. I was like, yeah, this will be good. It'll be like this will be my workout for today. I'm not gonna go for a run. It was so hard. Like, she was like jumping up and down and shit, and I was like, oh my gosh. Also, I feel like my apartment was shaking. I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring it down.
Did you run away or just like forget it? The day's done.
What was that?
Did you end up running afterwards and making up for it? You're just like, I'm done. I just can't.
No, I think I might have. Who knows what I did? I find different ways to make myself feel better if I didn't finish something. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do like a core like little 5-minute thing, and then I'll be done. Or like, oh, I'll do some like quick flow and like feel better, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But and also just like making time to go outside has been huge. Like I need to feel the sun. That's important.
Has it always been that way, or just like now with lockdown? Like, I'm just kind of curious. It's like,
with going outside.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think it's always been that way. I just love I love being in the sun. So I'm originally from Las Vegas, and I think maybe that's part of that, but also maybe it's just me. I love like people will be like, "Can we sit in the shade?" Why?
Yeah.
It's so nice. Not when it's like 100 degrees, of course, but in the Bay, it's cooler, right? And then
It's funny you mentioned that because, like, I'm from New York, but I love going to Vegas when it's like that 95 degrees. You just walk outside and just feel that dry heat, No humidity.
Right. It's a totally different kind of heat. I went like this because I went home a couple of weeks ago, and I remember being like walking outside and be like, oh, it's so warm, because here I get pretty chilly. Like most of the time I'm pretty cold.
I visited the Bay Area once, and it was always cloudy. I feel like it's always cloudy when I go there.
It's funny. Definitely in San Francisco. In Oakland, not as much, but it's not like Vegas. Like when you look up in Vegas and you look at the sky, it's like blue.
Yeah. It's actually one of my favorite cities. It's a home away from home because I get homesick sometimes. I can't get back to New York. Vegas is like the last city you can just walk in a straight line and have like lights and action around you and just drink your beer, right? And just contemplate life as it is.
Yeah.
Right now. So sorry, but making a bit about me now. We'll go into my podcast for a real time. What is next for Put in Black? I mean, it's out there. The launch is out there. So like we got some of the novelty out there. You're working at the Kinks. What does it look like? How does it grow? What is vision for 2.0, stage 2, phase 2 of putinblack.com?
Yeah. Thanks for asking, because I find myself being very just like trying to catch up with things that are going on right now, right? And just making sure things are good right now, but it's a beautiful thing to look forward to. So, I mean, hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person one day. And I have like this, like, it's not even a dream, but I have this vision in my mind of bringing people together who like the contributors who have written articles, or I've written one based on our interviews, or that kind of stuff, like coming together. I don't know if it would be like a conference kind of thing or like a brunch kind of thing, but just like really taking that sense of a community to another level, right? And just like the connection and like, hey, you're not the only one out here who cares about us, and you're not alone in this. Like, let's support one another, because being the people who are like creating these things can get tiring too, and we gotta like feed each other, and the people who are reading and who are listening to things that are on Put in Black, like them being a part of that and understanding their power too, and how they contribute to our health and all of that. And then I'll continue to do talks with different organizations. That's been pretty dope. Like so through Put in Black, like through sharing that and then meeting people, I've been giving talks just based off my like experience in psychology, and that's been cool because I've still been connected to do like the forensic world, which I think I might have brought up in the last episode, that my work previously was with in forensic psychology. And so I've been able to do talks for like lawyers and things like that. So I'm still like, I'm seeing the things that I've like put my intentions towards actually manifest. It's wild. Yeah.
How does that work for being called as an engagement for speaker speaking or presenting or that kind of thing? Is it like kind of like is it like a unsigned hype hip hop group for psychologists? Is it a website? Like, how does someone find someone to come through and talk about forensic psychology?
That's so funny. No, so I'm absolutely figuring it out as I go. So I've
Okay.
talked to my colleagues slash they're my friends, and I'm like, hey, like, so someone asked me if I could do this thing, and like, what do you guys think about this? What's your experience? And they're like, we don't know. So it's gonna
That's good. Yeah.
yeah. Thankfully, I have like some pretty cool like women in my life who have developed their own businesses and like a mentor and different mentors, and that's kind of been helping me like go along in this process because yeah, I'm learning as I've been going, and it's been more like someone has noticed something on my profile like LinkedIn or something, and they're interested in that like the things that I care about, and so hey, do you want to like lead a conversation on this? And then that person, like based on that, maybe someone from that group will then say like, hey, what about for this group? So it's
Yeah.
really just been like a cool, like seeing this just like flow of things happen. And I was talking to a friend about this, and I was like, yeah, it's like, it's just happening. I didn't even do anything. Like, it's just like, I didn't even have to ask for it. And she's like, Courtney, you did ask for it. Cause I've been like writing down my intentions and like speaking them and been like focused on what I want to do. And I literally like last year, this time
Yeah.
I was in Bali, and I like wrote down what I wanted to be doing in my life and how I want my career to look. And it was something I wrote something along the lines of like, I want to be doing trainings for attorneys. Like, that's what I want to do. Literally, that is what I'm doing.
So okay, now you can't just say that and be like drop mic, I'm out. But like, how does
I
that work? Because
know.
the secret is always about manifesting to the universe, and I'm a firm believer in making bucket lists, one for the life and one for the year, writing things down. But
Yeah.
you're telling me you wrote down what you thought, what you think success will be, and a year later you're actually doing what you're doing. A year,
A year. Like,
crazy,
really, like
crazy.
that was the time that I wrote that was like late June, early July. I remember it because there was so much going on in my life at that time. And I remember I probably have the piece of paper somewhere here. But I remember being like, I don't know what to write. Like, this doesn't even really work. Blah. Whenever people would tell me like to write down things, I'm like, okay. But I wrote it down, and then I started
Roll your
working.
eyes. All
I
right,
know, I
whatever.
know. And then I started working on Put in Black, and I think also just getting more into like meditation and yoga. That's been life changing. But yeah, like when you actually believe, right? If you have faith and you're not like, and like where you put your attention, right? It like it grows. So
Yeah.
I could talk about that all day because that was like when I really sat and thought about it, I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
I think we should go a little deeper in there because everyone
Okay.
has an idea of what they want to do, right? Everyone
Yeah.
who's a creative is like, oh man, I'm the best writer ever. I still
Yeah.
have dreams of also my own variety show. Some days,
Yes. Yes.
someday. But always talking about like clearing the mind, body, and soul. Now, I've tried meditating. I'm not good at it. If you can give me a quick tip, that'd be appreciative. But like,
Yeah.
I'm still surprised, not surprised in a bad way, but like, I hear people saying, just write it down or write yourself that $1 million check. But you literally said in a year's time you get it done. That's crazy. Crazy to
I
me.
know.
So teach
I
me how to
know.
meditate and how to manifest. Go.
Yes, yes, no. I feel you because I've done. Okay, let me tell you too. Is like we got it. I got to tell you all the things. So during that trip, when I was in Bali, I remember listening to someone say, like she was sharing about just some of the things that had come into her life that she had been intentional about, and I was like, but that wouldn't happen to me, right? Like this thinking of like, yeah, it happens to some people, but not me. So even like as you say, like I'm not good at it with meditation, like what does that even mean? And like letting go of those kind of thoughts, because I know for me with meditation, my mind is like, ooh, I'm hungry. Ooh, what am I gonna do? Da, 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 right? Like all over. And I've been doing like meditation consistently since like for a little over a year now. Um, so not that long, but also it's like more than I ever did it before. And I'm still like, I still have many moments throughout the time of me meditating where my brain is like thinking about all the other things and what I'm going to get done, and then feeling rushed because like I need to like check these emails and I need to get some stuff done before I start seeing clients and before I like do something for Put in Black, right? Like all this stuff is going on.
Yeah.
So Wow. I feel like I could talk about so many things. But yeah, so but I started with like a guided meditation, like the 21-day challenge. I tell everybody about this and they should like pay me, but like the Deepak Chopra, Oprah kind of thing.
Okay.
Have you checked that out before?
I'm familiar with it. I've not checked it out yet.
Okay, yeah. I started with that because I felt like I just needed some structure and I needed so like a way to okay, that's my plan in the morning, as opposed to me sitting with myself and just being with my thoughts and my breath. It was like, no, that feels like too much. So I started with what felt realistic for me. And then it's grown over time and it's really been like, but I need some peace. Like I need some like time where it's just like where I'm quiet for a bit and I need to like be able to check in with myself.
When are you most at peace?
You have great questions. Do I even know the answer to that? Oh my gosh.
I mean, if it's personal, you don't have to answer. I'm just curious.
No. I think I'm most at peace when I'm in nature. And that feels kind of funny in a sense too, because I'm so a person who's like, there's so many bugs. But
Nature's cool, but not y'all. Not
yeah, you guys. But I think like when I let go of that, I mean, it's easier for me to let go of that when I'm somewhere else, like especially if I've been in another country or just like away from my familiar environment. I'm like, the bugs are part of this is part of the place. But like being like around trees, plants, being by the ocean, being like when I go home to Vegas, seeing the mountains, like right, like these reminders of like just like nature. That feels good. Even talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that feels good. Yeah.
So, are you a firm believer that everyone has a happy place, or is that just kind of like marketing? I'm very cynical. If you haven't realized, I'm incredibly
No,
cynical.
I know. Wait, I want to, before I answer that, I want to go back to like, is there specific questions about tips for meditation that you have? Because I
I
want to
just thought
like,
if you had like if you had like a quick like cafeteria one for the masses, like I think everyone's different. I think everyone has their own way, the path
yeah,
to that kind of thing. But out of
yeah,
kind of like turn off your phone, or
right.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, and there's so many different apps too that can help you. I just feel like apps sometimes can be helpful because then you have a thing to go to that like kind of teaches you to slow down. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I can do it. And then you can do it on your own. But I think also don't start out too big. Don't be like, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes when you haven't been doing that at all. Like
Right.
start with 5. If it's even just like being like when you wake up in the morning, you take just like a minute, you're intentional about your breathing for like 1 minute. Do that and like see how that grows. But happy place, yes, I do. I think that like inside, is that what you mean? Like
No,
or like a
does
place?
everyone have a happy place, or is that something people just say like this is my happy place? Is it a commercial like idiomatic expression, or do you really believe that people have a happy place, a place where they're recentered, when they regrow?
Right. I think. Tell me if this is even aligned with what you're asking me, but I think we all, I believe all, maybe maybe all of us don't have awareness, but do better when we're like in nature. Like if you're grounded, right? If you're like able to like feel the grass or you're able to feel dirt, whatever, because we're a part of this world. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think in that sense, yes. And then if you are able to like going back to like the meditation, the intentional breathing, when you're able to remember that you have that you can always go back to that no matter where you are, no matter what's going on in your life. Like I'm in a city, right? I'm in Oakland where like so much goes on right now and and in general, really. But just knowing like, okay, like I can come back to this, and I'm going to my heart because I think of that area, but just like, okay, slow down. Even when I'm
Yeah.
like in this, and I've noticed as I practice this more, even when I'm like in this crazy state, I'm just like, I have so much to do. It's not saying like the anxiety goes away, but it's
Yeah.
saying like, I remember I'm okay. Like I'll be good regardless of what's going on with this situation.
That's cool. To be able to refocus yourself and take on the day. I'm looking at your empire from a glance. You're
Hmm.
doing speaking engagements, putingblack.com. Is there something else that's going to be built left? Is there another building on the city of you I'm looking forward to seeing?
I don't know. I
Coming
mean,
soon.
yeah, I'm definitely in, if you can't tell, I'm definitely into this whole just I don't even like calling it alternative like healing, but like different forms of healing. So like through meditation, through yoga, I would love to become certified in one or both of those,
Okay.
and incorporate that more in all the work that I do. So this is fun because like I get to hear myself. I'll hear myself say this on here, and let's see like what happens like down the road, and if I've
Right.
actually done any of these
You
things.
set out the universe. It's there. It's gonna be recorded. Just
It's there. Yeah.
yeah. That's really cool that you're just like, yeah, no, this is what I want to do. Because a lot of times, that question is not to be tricky, but some people being like, look, man, I'm only doing 4 things. I'm on your show already. What else do you want me to do? But it's cool that
Yeah.
you're still approaching it as someone that's growing. You know, it's pretty awesome.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I want to say thank you again for coming on New Amsterdam Radio. I can't wait until you're the most famous on demand for lawyers. I don't know how that works. Get your own app or whatever.
Yeah, like and not just for lawyers, for like different organizations. And then the next time, like you'll be growing too, and I'll be like, remember the time when we were talking and it was the quarantine, and now that'll be
so intentional
great.
with my breathing now. You have no idea.
You're gonna be like certified in meditation, and I'm gonna be asking you questions.
Yeah. But where can the world follow you online and support your brand and support your other projects right now?
So putinblack.com, all the social media links are on there. So yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I want you back for part 3. I'm not sure when we should do it. I should probably do it when a quarantine is lifted, if it ever is, to see how it is in the real world. But please come back. Please, please, please.
Yeah, I love doing this. It's fun. Yay.